593 BCE, the Genesis story written by the Jewish people describe angels or sons of God mating with women of earth, who bore them children. These were probably renegades from the old empire. They may also have been space pirates or merchants from a system outside the galaxy who came to steal mineral resources or smuggle drugs. A domain has observed that there are many visitors to Earth from neighboring planets and galaxies, but they rarely stop and live here. What kind of beings would live on a prison planet if they were not forced to do so? The same book also reports the story of a human named Ezekiel who witnessed a spacecraft or aircraft landing near Cheb River in Chaldea. His description of the craft uses very archaic language, technically, but is nevertheless quite an accurate description of an old empire saucer or scout craft. It is similar to the sighting of Vimanas by the people in the foothills of the Himalayas. The Genesis story also mentions that Yahweh designed biological bodies to live for 120 years on Earth. Biological bodies on most Sun-type 12, Class 7 planets are usually engineered to last for an average of about 150 years. Human bodies on Earth last only about one half as long. We suspect this is because the prison administrators have altered the biological material of human bodies on Earth to die more frequently, so that these beings who inhabit them will recycle through the amnesia mechanism more frequently. It should be noted that much of the Old Testament was written during the captivity of the Jews who were enslaved in Babylon, which was very heavily controlled by priests of the Old Empire. The book introduces a false sense of time and a false concept of the origin of the creation. The serpent is the symbol of the Old Empire. It appears in the beginning of their creation story, or as the Greeks say, Genesis, and causes the spiritual destruction of the first human beings, who are metaphorically represented by Adam and Eve. The Old Testament, clearly influenced by the Old Empire forces, gives a detailed description of these beings being induced into biological bodies on Earth. This book also describes many of the Old Empire brainwashing activities, including the installation of false memories, lies, superstitions, commands to forget, and all manner of tricks and traps designed to keep beings on Earth. Most importantly, it destroys the awareness that humans are immortal spiritual beings. 580 BCE, the oracle at Delphi was one temple in a network of many oracle temples. Each temple was a communication center. The Old Empire priests designated a local god for each temple. Each of the temples in this network were located at precisely 5 degrees of latitude intervals from the capital city of Thebes, throughout the Mediterranean area as far north as the Baltic Sea. The shrines served, among other things, as a grid, housing electronic beacons, later called Omphale stones. The grid arrangement of oracle sites can only be seen from miles above the Earth. The original network of electronic communications beacons were disabled when the priesthood was dispersed, and were replaced by carved stones. The symbol of the Old Empire priesthood is a python, dragon or serpent. It was called the Earth Dragon at Delphi, which is always represented in sculpture and vase paintings as a serpent. In Greek mythology, the guardian of the Omphale stone at the temple at Delphi was an oracle whose name was Python, the serpent. She was an Isbe, who was conquered by a god named Apollo. He buried her under the Omphale stone. This is a case of one god setting up his temple on the grave of another. This is a very accurate euphemism for the domain force that detected and disabled the Old Empire temple network on Earth. It was one of the fatal blows to the Old Empire force in the solar system of Earth. 559 BCE, the commanding officer of the domain battalion who was lost in 5965 BCE was detected and located by a search party sent to Earth from the domain expeditionary force. He was incarnated as Cyrus II of Persia during this time. A unique system of organization was used by Cyrus II and the members of that battalion who followed him from India through his progression of human lives on Earth. In part, it enabled them to build the largest empire in the history of the Earth to that date. A domain search party who located him travelled around the Earth searching for the lost battalion for several thousand years. The party consisted of 900 officers of the domain, divided into teams of 300 each. One team searched the land, another team searched the oceans, and the third team searched the space surrounding Earth. There are many reports made in various human civilizations concerning their activities, which humans did not understand, of course. A domain search party devised a wide variety of electronic detection devices needed to track the electronic signature or wavelength of each of the missing members of the battalion. Some were used in space, others on land, and special devices were invented to detect ISBs underwater. One of these electronic detection devices is referred to as a tree of life. The device is literally a tool designed to detect the presence of life, which is an ISB. This was a large electronic screen generator designed to permeate wide areas. To the ancient humans on Earth it resembled a sort of tree, since it consists of an interwoven lattice of electronic field generators and receivers. The electronic field detects the presence of ISBs, whether the ISB is occupying a body, or if they are outside a body. A portable version of this detection device was carried by each of the members of the domain search party. Stone carvings in Sumeria show winged beings using pinnacle-shaped instruments to scan the bodies of human beings. They are also shown carrying the power unit for the scanner, which are depicted as stylized baskets or water buckets, being carried by eagle-headed winged beings. Members of the aerial unit of the domain search party, led by Ahura Mazda, were often called winged gods in human interpretations. Throughout the Persian civilization there are a great many stone relief carvings that depict winged spacecraft that they called a Faraveha. Members of the aquatic unit of the domain search party were called Ones by local humans. Stone carvings of the so-called Ones are shown wearing silver diving suits. They lived in the sea and appeared to the human population to be men dressed to look like fish. Some members of the lost battalion were found in the oceans inhabiting the bodies of dolphins or whales. On land, a domain search party members were referred to as Anunnaki by the Sumerians and Nephilim in the Bible. Of course, their true mission and activities were never disclosed to Homo sapiens. Their activities have been purposefully disguised. Therefore, the human stories and legends about the Anunnaki and the other members of the domain search party have not been understood and were badly misinterpreted. In the absence of complete and accurate data, anyone observing a phenomenon will assume or hypothesize explanations in an attempt to make sense of the data. Therefore, although mythology and history may be based on factual events, they are likewise full of misunderstood and misinterpreted evaluations of the data, and embellished with assumptions, theories and hypotheses which are false. The space unit of the Domain Expeditionary Force are shown flying in a wind disk. This is an allusion to the spiritual power of the ISBs, as well as to the spacecraft used by the Domain Search Party. The commander of the Lost Battalion, Osiris II, was an ISB who was regarded as a messiah on Earth by both the Jews and the Muslims. In less than 50 years he established a highly ethical and humanitarian philosophy which pervaded all of Western civilization. His territorial conquests, organization of people and monumental building projects were unprecedented before or since. Such sweeping accomplishments in a short period of time could only have been achieved by a leader and a team of trained officers, pilots, engineers and crew members of a unit of the domain, acting as a team, who had been trained and worked together for thousands of years. Although we have discovered the location of many of the ISBs in the Lost Battalion, a domain has been unable to restore their memory and return them to active duty as yet. Of course we cannot transport ISBs who are inhabiting biological bodies to the space stations of the domain, since there is no oxygen in our spacecraft. Also, we do not maintain life support facilities for biological entities there. Our only hope has been to locate and rekindle the awareness, memory and identity of the ISBs of the lost but alien. One day they will be capable of rejoining us. 200 BCE, the last remnant of the old Empire pyramid civilization is at Teotihuacan. The Aztec name means place of the gods, or where men were transformed into gods. Like the astronomical configuration of the Giza pyramids in Egypt, the entire complex is a precise scale model of the solar system that accurately reflects the orbital distances of the inner planets, the asteroid belt, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Since the planet Uranus had only been discovered with modern Earth telescopes in 1787, and Pluto not until 1930, it is apparent that the builders had information from other sources. A common element of the pyramid civilizations around the Earth is the constant use of the image of the snake, dragon, or serpent. This is because the beings who planted these civilizations here want to create an illusion that the gods are reptilian. This is also a part of an illusion designed to perpetuate amnesia. The beings who placed false civilizations on Earth are ISBs, just like you. Many of the biological bodies inhabited by ISBs in the old empire are very similar in appearance to the bodies on Earth. The gods are not reptiles, although they often behave like snakes. 1034, 1124 AD, the entire Arab world was enslaved by one man, Hassan ibn al-Sabah, the old man of the mountain. He established the Hashashin, who operated a part of Mohammedanism which controlled by terror and fear much of India, Asia Minor and most of the Mediterranean basin. They became a priesthood that used an extremely effective mind control mechanism and extortion tool that enabled the assassins to control the civilized world for several hundred years. Their method was simple. Young men were kidnapped and knocked unconscious with hashish. They were taken to a garden filled with beautiful black-eyed houris in a harem decorated with rivers of milk and honey. The young men were told that they were in paradise. They were promised they could return and live there forever if they sacrificed themselves as an assassin of whomever they were commanded to kill. The men were knocked out again and shoved out into the world to carry out the assassination mission. Meanwhile, the old man of the mountain sent a messenger to the caliph, or whatever wealthy ruler from whom they demanded payment, demanding camel loads of gold, spices, incense or other valuables. If payment did not arrive on time, the assassin would be sent to kill the offending party. There was virtually no defense against the unknown assailant who wanted nothing more than to carry out his mission, be killed and return to heaven. This is a very crude example of how simple and effective a brainwashing and mind control operation can be when it is used skillfully and forcefully. It is a small-scale demonstration of how the amnesia mind control operation is used against the entire ISB population of Earth by the old empire. 1119 AD, the Knights Templar was established as a Christian military unit after the First Crusade, but quickly transformed into the basis for the international banking system to accumulate money to conduct the agenda of operatives for vestiges of the old empire on Earth. 1135, 1230 AD, a domain expeditionary force completed the annihilation of the remaining remnants of the old empire space fleet operating in the solar system around Earth. Unfortunately, their long-established thought control operation remains largely intact. 1307 AD, the Knights Templar was disbanded by King Philip IV of France, who was deeply in debt to the order. He pressured Pope Clement V to condemn the order's members, have them arrested, tortured them into giving false confessions, and burned them at the stake in an effort to erase his debt by seizing all of their wealth. A majority of the Templars fled to Switzerland, where they established an international banking system which secretly controls the economy of Earth. Old empire operatives act as an unseen influence on international bankers. The banks are operated covertly as a non-combatant provocateur to covertly promote and finance weapons and warfare between the nations of Earth. Warfare is an internal mechanism of control over the inmate population. The purpose of the senseless genocide and carnage of wars financed by these international banks is to prevent the ISBs of Earth from sharing open communication, cooperate together in activities that might enable ISBs to prosper, become enlightened, and escape their imprisonment.